The biting wind sliced through Central Park like a blade, rattling the naked trees and swirling snow across the frozen ground. Maxwell Carter, a millionaire tech entrepreneur in his mid-40s, walked briskly with his scarf tucked tightly around his neck. His leather gloves clutched a steaming cup of espresso, the only warmth in an otherwise cold morning routine. Dressed in a tailored wool coat and designer boots, he looked every bit the success story that graced magazine covers and Forbes lists. But beneath the polished exterior was a man running from silence, running from the loneliness wealth had only deepened. He had lost his wife to cancer 2 winters ago. Since then, he had buried himself in numbers, acquisitions, meetings, and the illusion that busyness would fill the void. Every morning, he passed through the park on his way to the office, ignoring the world around him. But today was different. As he turned the corner near an old, forgotten fountain, something made him stop. At first, he thought it was just a pile of discarded clothes. But then, he saw a small hand sticking out of a tattered pink mitten. He rushed over, heart thudding. 2 little girls, no older than 6 and 4, huddled together on the bench, wrapped in an old blanket that had failed to protect them from the freezing cold. Their faces were pale, lips tinged blue, eyes closed. Maxwell dropped his coffee and yanked off his coat, wrapping it around them without hesitation. "Hey! Hey! Stay with me," he said, gently shaking the older girl. She stirred weakly, murmuring something incoherent. The younger one didn't respond. Without a second thought, Maxwell scooped both into his arms and ran. Not to his car. Not to the police. But to the children's hospital 5 blocks away. He hadn't sprinted in years, but adrenaline gave him wings. Nurses rushed to meet him at the ER doors. The girls were immediately taken in. Hypothermia. Malnutrition. Possible frostbite. While doctors worked, Maxwell sat in the waiting room, shivering in his shirt sleeves. He didn't care. He kept replaying the image of those tiny bodies, frozen and forgotten in the cold. Hours passed. Finally, a doctor approached. "They'll make it," she said. Barely. Another hour and, she didn't finish. "You saved their lives." Maxwell let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Over the next few days, he visited them daily. The older girl's name was Ellie. The younger, Rosie. Their mother had lost her job and, eventually, their apartment. One night, in desperation, she left them on that bench, whispering a promise she never returned to keep. Authorities couldn't find her. Maxwell had the means to walk away, to move on with his life and consider this just a good deed done. But he didn't. Something inside him shifted. Each visit to the hospital deepened a bond he hadn't anticipated. Ellie began to smile. Rosie began to sing. Maxwell found himself bringing coloring books, stuffed animals, hot chocolate. One afternoon, as he sat beside Ellie, she quietly asked, "Do you have a daughter?" Maxwell paused. "I used to," he whispered. "Her name was Lily. She passed away when she was just about your age." Ellie reached out and held his hand. Neither spoke after that, but something unspoken passed between them, pain recognized, love reborn. 2 weeks later, the social worker informed Maxwell the girls would likely be separated in foster care. "We're overwhelmed," she admitted. "Keeping siblings together is hard. They need placement soon." Maxwell didn't sleep that night. He stared at the ceiling, thinking of Lily. Of his wife. Of the empty house with too many rooms and not enough laughter. By morning, his mind was clear. He adopted them. It wasn't easy. Papers. Background checks. Court hearings. Questions about motives. But he endured it all. Not as a savior, not out of guilt. But because for the first time in years, he felt a purpose that money could never buy. His mansion transformed. The cold marble floors now had crayon marks. The hallways echoed with giggles and running feet. Ellie and Rosie brought chaos, yes, but also warmth. Maxwell started working from home more, cooking pancakes on Saturdays, reading bedtime stories under blanket forts. He started smiling again. But the real change wasn't just in him. Ellie, once shy and reserved, flourished in school. She began writing poems, some of which brought tears to Maxwell's eyes. Rosie, once quiet and frail, developed a fierce personality, demanding dance recitals in the living room and singing loudly off-key. One evening, a year later, during a snowy December night much like the one they met, Rosie tugged at Maxwell's sweater. "Are you our real dad now?" she asked innocently. Maxwell knelt, pulling both girls into a hug. "I wasn't there when you were born," he said, his voice thick, "but I will be there for every birthday, every scraped knee, every night you're scared. If that makes me a real dad, then yes. Forever." In the end, the millionaire who once had everything but felt empty found two little girls who had nothing, but gave him back his soul. It wasn't charity. It wasn't rescue. It was family.